All right, you are on the platform, and I just have to say, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, Ben, we got into the issue of cell phones in schools, and what do you know? We were so far ahead of that curve. We were in a different time zone. Because, what do you know, the National Party said we're going to ban cell phones in schools like they have in Australia. They say they'll let them have them back for playtime, or we used to call it interval, and lunchtime. Nah, take them out the whole day is my advice, because then kids will just spend so much time going back to get their phones. Or just put a geo-lock so they can have their phones, but they do not work. I think that's a great policy. I think many schools had the good sense to be doing it already. I think it will be good to formalise it nationwide. So just say we were well ahead of the curve on that one. All right, to our first interview. Now, David Seymour is going to join us, and I'm first going to lay out, because this is a kind of fast-breaking and developing story where we start off with for this interview. On a marae in South Auckland today, a number of journalists will be gathering at the invitation of Stuff. Stuff, the sort of mysteriously funded but most read news organisation in the country, publisher of The Post, and Stuff adherents to critical race theory. Stuff, probably the most woke mainstream news organisation in the country. They have invited other mainstream news organisations to a training day, which I understand are going to be a series of workshops, and these workshops will be focusing on how to cover the contentious issue of ethnicity, race, the treaty, and co-governance in New Zealand, particularly in the context of the upcoming election. And now, the other thing we know about this, NZME, which operates the Herald and News Talk ZB, looked at the invitation and the way it was worded and declined to attend. It is not sending anyone. I can also tell you, I understand that Newsroom, generally a pretty woke organisation, they were not invited, so they are not attending. I can tell you the platform didn't get invited, knocked me down with a feather. But I can also tell you that at 2:30 this afternoon, the Minister of Broadcasting and Māori Affairs is going to be addressing Stuff organised Māori Coverage Training Day. Just why, I am not sure. Just why this is taking place, I am not sure. And just what is going on, no one is sure. I am going to speculate, and we're going to ask, in fact, we're asking Sinead Boucher right now, aren't we, Ben, from Stuff to come on and explain this. She has said to Chris Lynch of Chris Lynch Media, it is just a training day, this is all ridiculous, we're not colluding on how we're going to cover race. But it is curious, and one person who agrees with our assessment of it as curious is the leader of the ACT Party, David Seymour. He joins us now. I'll start with the devil's advocate question for you, David. What's wrong with a bunch of journalists getting together and talking about how to cover a certain issue?
Well, on the face of it, you'd wonder why you'd be talking to your competitors, why you wouldn't be trying to figure out how to do better than them and attract a bigger audience. How often do you see, for example, two supermarkets just getting together to talk about how to sell groceries better? If they did that, that would be illegal under the Commerce Act. In fact, for any other set of businesses to do this, I would have thought would be illegal collusion. When they say it's a training day, if that's true, why don't they put it out in the open and everyone? I mean, wouldn't they want more people to come to it? There's so many unanswered questions about this, and the idea that they wouldn't be upfront and open about what they're doing is just rather strange.
Okay, so if they were upfront and open about what they're doing, you'd be way more relaxed.
Well, that would then depend on what it was that they were doing, because there's various reports that this is just a training day. This is managers of media outlets meeting together to put together a kind of set of principles on how they will report. We don't know.
My understanding is the invitation said if agreeable, we'd issue some sort of joint statement at the end of the day, which seemed a bit odd to me.
Well, that's more like what I was saying about putting together the set of principles. Now, what that means is they've effectively got media outlets forming a cartel that we're going to report some views but not others, because some views will fit with those principles and others won't. So again, you would think that the role of the press is to report what is happening so that people can make up their mind about how they vote before an election. But instead it would appear that there's some sort of political objective that these people have that will conflict with their objective of being good journalists. Now, this is all pretty worrying stuff, and it explains why so many people are so angry and feel disillusioned and disenfranchised. You've got, on the face of it, media outlets that are making sure that those people's views won't be reported or represented.
Yeah. I also find it curious, and the Minister has confirmed to me, his office has confirmed to me, he is speaking there for 10 to 15 minutes this afternoon, that journalists who, call me old-fashioned, should be practising impartiality and independence from the government, that you would be having a workshop on a contentious issue like this, David, and you'd be inviting the Minister of Maori Affairs and the Minister of Broadcasting to talk to you. It seems completely, against every tenet of the fundamentals of good journalism.
Well, it's the other thing that's completely odd about it. It would be one thing to have Willie Jackson as the Minister of Broadcasting if it wasn't in the regulated period. Remember, since July 14, we've been in the 3-month period where spending on the election is regulated. That's, officially the campaign period for me, at least. And I think that, to have these three things, the collusion to produce principles, and the involvement of a government minister who is himself, a contestant in an election that they will be covering, and then also the Minister of Maori Affairs, which is the subject matter they're talking about covering. It's just a mess.
Yeah. We know that the Herald aren't taking part. Apparently, we are told, though I haven't been able to confirm this officially, because they were concerned that the tenor of the information and the very sort of concerns that you've raised here this morning. We do have Sinead Boucher saying it's just a training day. It would be nice to find out more about it. Have you been invited along? Would you like to go along?
Well, I would go if I was asked, because I think I've got a bit of duty to figure it out and find out what these guys are up to and express the views that a lot of New Zealanders want to express. So I would, but needless to say, I haven't been invited. And the honest answer to your question, would I like to go along? I can't think of anything worse.
Okay, look, there is also another possibility here, that a bunch of naive Māori affairs reporters from Stuff, which is absolutely kind of riddled with people who believe in critical race theory, have no idea what they're doing, and they'd all thought they'd get together and, I don't know, blow smoke up each other's foo-foo valves. It may not be such a big deal, David.
Well, maybe it's not. But on the other hand, these people are writing the news that people are reading. And in a democracy, you need to be able to trust the press. And as we've seen in the various surveys, fewer and fewer people do. So if your argument is, well, sure, but these guys aren't that important, so it's no big deal, well, that's okay. But can the articles written by these folks have a special disclaimer on them? So
and we need to know, don't we, if TVNZ are going and Radio New Zealand are going? I tried to get that answer out of them yesterday. They've both got such appalling media relations protocols, there's just no way you can get through and get any sense out of them. David, if you don't mind, I also want to move on to another mystery. And I'll be honest, I'm a bit scared to go where I'm about to go in case everyone says you're an idiot, but it's a bit like the Emperor's New Clothes. The BlackRock deal yesterday, which literally led One News, that it was this amazing deal. I think they did use, Hipkins was quoted with game changer and all these things. Call me an idiot if you want, But was there anything stopping BlackRock investing $2 billion in renewable projects in New Zealand without a deal?
No, look, Sean, I'm with you. It's got to be one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard, because at the end of the day, there isn't a deal. As far as I can tell, BlackRock have indicated that they would like to invest in some projects in New Zealand, which is great, which they could do any time. I mean, notwithstanding the Overseas Office and the Resource Management Act and the endless red tape and regulation that anyone who wants to invest in New Zealand, including people who already live here, face. But in terms of a deal, I mean, I was under the impression when I first read the reports that the New Zealand government had made some sort of promise or some sort of change or had done a thing that would make it more attractive for BlackRock to invest here in New Zealand. But it would seem that actually they haven't done anything.
So are we going to be involved in running for the world's largest private equity firm some sort of business for them in New Zealand? Because that would seem silly too. I also just cannot believe how the mainstream news media have run it as a massive deal. And I've really poured in the last, 8 hours. I've poured over everything I could find on this. But it just doesn't seem to be a real story.
No, and that's the conclusion I've come to. My initial reaction on reading the early reports was, well, the government is committing that New Zealand will get to 100% renewable energy by 2030, and that is part of the deal that they've made with BlackRock. And at that point I said, look, this is ridiculous. New Zealanders don't want to be part of a global corporate experiment using New Zealand as a sort of case study for them. New Zealanders want to be able to pay their power bill, and one of the most expensive things we could try to do is get to 100% renewable, because it's those last few percent which are just so expensive if you can't fire up a gas turbine to generate it when the wind's not blowing and the sun's not shining. So even the Climate Change Commission says getting to 100% is a crazy goal. The ACT Party says it's nuts. And
even Greenpeace came out and said the BlackRock thing was a bit confusing and dodgy yesterday. It is quite remarkable.
Well, if Greenpeace is saying that, it must be really dodgy.
And I do notice, actually, maybe things have gone a bit quiet. I couldn't believe it was lead story on TVNZ last night without any journalistic integrity.
Well,
okay.
And not only that, it was the lead story on TVNZ with no opposition criticism. On the other hand, TVNZ did a story about Can ACT and National work together.
That was remarkable, that piece by Mikey Sherman. It was basically just a 60 cent, looks like they're going to be to the government, here's why we don't like them.
Basically, and allowing all of the left-wing parties to have a say on that.
Were you ever approached about that story by Mikey Sherman?
Oh, I was in the story, yeah. They interviewed me for it, for sure.
Oh, okay, all right. So you did get a right of reply. But, yeah, I looked at it and thought it was Todge, to be honest. And I wonder if Mikey Sherman is going to be at the training day today. I imagine.
I have to say, Mikey's one person I got a bit of time for, but who knows?
Well, do you have time for that story?
I didn't think it was their best story, but hey, there you go.
All right. Look, David, thank you. Thank you, actually, mostly for confirming that I'm not delusional and the BlackRock thing looks really dodgy. And also, I guess, I wonder where we're going to get any answers on Stuff's Treaty of Waitangi Training Day.
Well, it'll be fun to ask Willie Jackson exactly what the purpose of it was, and ask for any speech notes or anything that he took to it.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed for your time. That is David Seymour, the leader of the ACT Party. So there are two great mysteries. What are all these journalists doing on, and how can you have... Let me just explain for you folks, in case you don't get it. For mainstream media and most journalists, the idea is that you're impartial, that you don't approach a situation or approach coverage of a story with an outcome in mind. You are open-minded. How can you be open-minded about covering Treaty of Waitangi issues when you choose to have your workshop on a marae and have the Minister of Māori Affairs in attendance? Or are there different rules for Māori media and for Māori journalists? Are there special rules for them? Are they allowed to be advocates or activists, I wonder? And yes, of course, for some strange reason, and there's even the rumour going around that stuff are essentially underwritten by Ngāi Tahu, which is why they went all woke and went all critical race theory. Have we texted Sinead? We have sent a text to Sinead Boucher. We may try ringing her on or off air. We'll make up our minds. We'd like her to explain what the training day is all about and why the Minister of Broadcasting and Māori Affairs is at a journalistic training day and why other politicians weren't invited. And Sinead, if you're listening or if someone can get to Sinead, look, just 5 or 10 minutes, you could clear the whole thing up for us. But at the moment, I'm going to say this training day, and someone reminded me of a movie with Denzel Washington, which was may indeed have a plot line similar to this. This training day looks like mainstream media getting together to agree on how they will gaslight you or how they will cover the very contentious issue of race, ethnicity, co-governance in the Treaty of Waitangi, how they'll agree to cover it so you only hear and get a version of events that they want you to have. And could I also put out a call to anyone and everyone who can explain what the deal is with BlackRock? And of course, it would be really helpful if someone from the government would come on the platform to explain it, but they won't because they've banned us, and maybe they can't. It looks like smoke and mirrors, the BlackRock deal.